Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
You're listening to TFG Football.
Hello everyone. Here we are. Well, the studio is full today, like extremely full, and it's so good because after all, we are voices for Indian football, right? And here we are once again, one more day in action, giving you all the updates and whatever you need to know. So today we'll have a great discussion over Indian football, of course, and we have a special guest today in the studio. We are very glad to welcome him, Kit Caless. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely
I took your name right.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Well, now he is a journalist and he writes for Vice, The Guardian, New Statesman in London, and he's right now here in India, in Mumbai, in our studio. Woohoo! And well, he's here for, of course, football.
We got a Mumbai FC fan in UK.
Yeah. Yes, come on.
Yeah, I'm taking it back. Yeah. Start my own fan club in London.
Well, the others, as usual, we have Chiranjit, Kevin and Nikhil. Now, it looks like I'm hounded with all Arsenal fans in the studio, but I shall take it. It's okay. Before we start talking about our main discussion that we have, we shall touch upon what happened yesterday. Mohun Bagan took over Colombo and in home. And it was a 2-1 victory.
Actually took over.
Yeah.
Actually took over completely.
And I mean, it was like the same, a replay of the first game. I mean, the scores
very
said that.
different game, yeah.
2-1 and 4-2 on aggregate. So, I mean, there is nothing to be said, right, about the match.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can say that. Needs to be said. But very important match in terms that this was the game where Sony Node and others came back to action before the derby. So this was basically used as a
practice.
Precursor to the derby. Obviously, dominant performance. Got a goal early on. Sony Node back to business immediately. Right, got a goal, got an assist. Daryl Duffy, his touch is getting better.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of youngsters get chance. You know, like all the three foreigners who were playing, Katsumi and Sony and Duffy, they were subbed off. Like last 20 odd minutes, it was all Indian players and Rainier and other foreigners getting a chance. Shilton got some game time, but obviously that's not important for the derby. But yeah, it looks good. I mean, everybody who was shit scared ahead of the derby because East Bengal is like 6-7 match, winning streak. Maybe they will be a little bit, assured now that
it's not gonna be a cakewalk.
It's not gonna be a cakewalk for either team, and you can never tell with derbies, right? So that's how it goes.
Yeah, well, everything ready and fixed up for the derby, right? And something else also happened. That is, a news broke out saying Chennai City have axed their coach, Robin Charles Raja. Now, was this move expected?
Yeah.
Not expected. They've been doing not so well, but just of recently.
What was the expectation then? What, you want Chennai City to be in top 3?
I don't know.
He's been with the team for a long time. He was part of the senior team coaching part as well. So it wouldn't be a right time to just put them down at the moment because they had just started to get good results. They started off on a very bad note.
They are giving better results than Mumbai.
Their midfield is better.
Everyone is giving better results than Mumbai. Even Minerva won.
Their midfield is better now. Their wing is better, but somebody needs to finish off those passes from Tank, right? Yeah. And that person can be T. Reagan, and I don't know, for some inexplicable reason he's been benched for some games. So
we've mentioned that before.
Yeah, and that was a contention, I think, between management and the coach. I mean, obviously this is not concrete or anything what I'm saying, but yeah, that was one of the points, and maybe that's what led to this.
Well, we'll bring you all the updates if any else develops. Now let's get back to Mr. Kit in studio, who's all the way, I mean, he's been silent for now, so let's talk about him. He's also written a book. He's published a book recently. It's been published by The Penguin, and it's about a pop culture and design in the UK. He also mentioned it's a humor book and not a serious one. So why don't you just, in brief, tell us the book about? What's the book about?
Yeah, I have to, first of all, when I talk about football, my accent changes. It becomes more like London. So apologies for when that discussion gets going and you might not understand what I'm saying. But yeah, the book is basically there's a chain of pubs in England called Wetherspoon, and they serve the cheapest alcohol so they're very popular. And I discovered, because I drink there quite a lot, I discovered that all their carpets are bespoke and unique in each different establishment, which is really strange for a very low budget thing. You know, it's like having, your sort of, I don't know, coffee day, having different carpets in every establishment. So I started a blog on Tumblr, just collecting them each time I went to a new pub. And then I had a meeting with my agent about a different book.
Okay.
And she says, "Have you seen this blog? It's amazing about these carpets." And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." I said, "So that's you? Why haven't we done a book about it?" I'm like, "Okay, fine." So then we put the book together, and Penguin thankfully decided to publish it, and then paid me to travel around the UK, visiting all these pubs and taking photos of their carpets. But the humour bit is basically me meeting all the regulars. You know, people who drink in pubs regularly tend to be sort of good characters, and writing about the design and kind of not taking the piss, but sort of gently, gently making jokes about it. You know? Yeah, it was fun. It did quite well. It's like very much a kind of Christmas present book you give to your uncle that you don't know very well, or your brother, or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, some bit of humor, and who would think about you writing books about carpets in pubs?
Yeah, I didn't.
That's crazy. And well, he also runs a small independent publishing house called Influx Press, which publishes around 5 books a year. So, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, that's so aside from when I do the writing, it's for big organisations like The Guardian or Vice or Penguin. And then I have this little side hustle. It's basically books. I'm with a school friend of mine, so we edit them and we commission them, but they tend to be books that wouldn't necessarily make it to a commercial market, and they tend to centre around sort of a particular place. So we have a short story collection set within 5 roads in Manhattan. We have like a whole sort of poetry thing all set in London. And I went to Jaipur Literature Festival in January to do some journalism there. But I met lots of people who are doing very similar things, but in regional languages. So Bengali or Marathi or Tamil. It's very interesting to talk to them. And then we're going to try and maybe do some translation. So bring some Indian regional language books over. And the big problem in India is if you want to translate between Bengali and Marathi, you go via English. So there's very few translators between regional languages. So they always, like, English is like a linking language. So we often get the best of the best, unfortunately.
Okay. That's a lot of work. But now let's get down to business, folks. We are here to talk about football in India, and we're going to just grasp what Mr. Kit has observed all this while. So let's start with the derby, because derby is coming closer, and the derby in India is the Calcutta Derby.
There are many derbies.
That's what you like to say right now? I mean, I thought you always bragged about Calcutta Derby all this while, and now you're being very modest. So there are a lot of derbies.
So let's start this. You wrote an article on Mumbai FC and the Yellow Brigade and the culture around it. Then Chiranjit tweeted back to you that you can't say it's an Indian football culture because there are very different cultures. Osha, why don't you start off with that?
See, the point I was making is that it's a good article. Great article.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the only problem is that you go to Europe or Latin America, you see football cultures who have been there for a long time, and they're pretty developed. Right, every club has a very dedicated following, a long history. With India, it's very raw. Okay, so you go to a match in Mumbai, you go to a match in Chennai, you go to a match in Bangalore, you go to Shillong, Aizawl, you will feel like these are happening in 5 different parts of the world, because the feel is different, the intensity is different, the attitude of the fans are different. So that's what it is. You can't just look at one place and say, okay, this is an example of Indian football culture, because there are 20 other places which will have complete different vibe to it. So
I think the point of the article was to kind of see how something is generated from nothing. So like Mumbai is like a cricket city. There's it's traditionally, right, like lots of famous cricket players have come from here, Gavaskar and Tendulkar and whatever. And I was interested in seeing. I knew about. My girlfriend is Bengali, and her dad's a big Mohun Bagan fan, and so I know all about that East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, Mohammedans, all of that stuff, and that's really old. People know about that in England, partly because I think it was the Rovers Cup when Mohun Bagan beat the British Army or something.
IFA Shield as well. Right?
Was that IFA? It's like 1930 something. Anyway, but yeah, these are kind of famous clubs. And I think it's like, it was interesting for me to find a club that had only been 10 years old or something, and see how that's trying to develop, because in England football is so old, you don't have new clubs. So it's interesting for me to find a new club that's operating at the top tier. In England you have, maybe someone starts a new club, but it has to start at the bottom and work its way all the way up, So that was the interest for me, is how do you sort of construct a culture quickly enough to make it sustainable. In Bengal, the football culture is sustainable, it's still going, And I think with the Mumbai and the Yellow Brigade and things like this, it was, I was interested also in how some of it had taken inspiration from Europe, European style fans, and then other bits were like, I didn't understand because it was in Marathi or Hindi. And that was really interesting, and the combination of having sort of old men sitting at the top, and then all these young lads at the bottom bouncing up and down. In England you have, it's hard to get a ticket to start with unless you're a season ticket holder, and even then everyone's doing all the same things, and it was in one stand everybody's doing the same thing. And here it was like in this one stand there was like different people doing all different things. I thought that was quite interesting.
If you're like looking at somebody who has built something out of nothing, I think Bengaluru FC is the best example, right? Just 3-year-old club. Like 2013 they came up, won the I-League in the first season, historic season they had. Then now they have West Block Blues, probably like the best European inspired football fan club in the country, doing all that stuff. But you made a very good point that you just see this kind of disjointed bits of fans doing their own things. That's very Kolkata actually,
right?
Because people will never like come into that sync in a football pitch. Everybody just comes to the football game to just vent their own frustrations or whatever. So they'll either be like cheering for the team that's there, but you'll have one fan club doing something, another fan club doing something else, and the others who will be shouting at others like, why are you singing? We're 1-0 down. So the idea is that if you're down, you curse at your players. So, that's when your inner demons come out, right? So what are you? My life is going downhill because of you. Why can't you jump a little higher and head it home? So that's what it becomes. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's the opposite in England, where if you're losing, you abuse the opposition players. And the opposition fans, there's less of abuse of your own players. Really.
The opposition gets abused all the time, but all these member-driven clubs, they feel like the players owe an answer to them, right? So because a lot of intermingling happens between fans and players. That's very informal. So it's like we give you so much money, why are you doing this to me? That's the idea.
So Kit, I want to ask you one question. Like, you have been in Bombay and you have been looking at Mumbai FC matches. Now, one of the reasons Mumbai is a very up culture kind of a society where people, these young lads have been watching EPL since the day one of their life, but because it was so easily provided. Okay, and in India, if you see, there are basically fans of Arsenal, the top four: Arsenal, United, Chelsea. But people, what they don't understand is, in UK, there are fans for all the 20 clubs. Okay, what is the difference? Like here, it becomes a challenge to take a EPL Indian fan, to convert him into an Indian football fan, because Indian football is not that readily available, especially in the metros. Okay, Bengaluru FC has been doing well, but in Mumbai this has been a problem. What is the difference over there? Like, how are there Cardiff City fans or Sunderland fans or Aston Villa fans? Is it related to the society? Is it related to the culture?
It's interesting. even when you go further down the leagues into like Division 2 and 3, you still have full stadiums.
Okay.
You know, I mean, they're smaller, so York City or I don't know, other teams like Birmingham and the Blackburn and Bolton. These other teams, they still have lots and lots of fans. I mean, the origins of most of the football clubs in England are based around a workplace. So Arsenal used to be a munitions factory in South East London. So they used to literally build Arsenal for the army, and it was the factory workers that formed the team. And in Sheffield United, their nickname is the Blades or the Steelers or whatever, because they make knives and cutlery, and they used to forge. So the communities are built around kind of an industry, and Cardiff and Swansea would have been built around kind of mining. So you have a ready-made network already there. But in terms of the kind of wider reach, what's interesting, I think, about how you choose your club is your dad tells you who to watch.
Okay.
And your dad just says, you're an Everton fan. And when you're one, and you're like, okay. Okay, Dad. You know, and actually there are stories, I mean, I've never seen it, of families who marry like from different clubs, and then it's a real predicament for the child, like who to support, right? Or it's just, you know, where you live. I mean, in London, we have 13 professional football teams.
Okay.
From Brentford to Arsenal, whatever. But there's also all these other amateur games going on. Sunday, you know, there's one huge field near my house in Hackney in East London. There's 120 football games happening on a Sunday. So I think that the playing culture is also a big part. So, you know, in this city, there's not a lot of space to play football. Whereas I guess in Bangalore, there probably is a little bit more space, you know. So I think that's part of it, you know. And then you emulate your favourite players, and maybe you choose a team because you like this guy and whatever else. I mean, I came to Mumbai FC because it was local, and that I didn't even check how good they were, what was happening. I just was like, I live here, so I should go to that team, you know.
I think that's a good start, because if every Mumbaikar thinks about that, saying, I live in the city and if I follow football, so let's go to the match. So I think that's a good point that you made. I mean, I think everyone in Mumbai should do that.
I mean, I live 15-minute walk from the Emirates Stadium.
Okay.
So I can't be anything else but an Arsenal fan, you know? It'd be impossible. But yeah, and I think that's probably the case, is that if you did recognise your team was near you, and it's not hard to get to the Cooperage.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's like a 5-minute walk from Churchgate or whatever. I think it's kind of lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Now go ahead, Chiranjeev.
Yeah, so point I wanted to make, this kind of handing down fandom from family to family, that's a reality in Kolkata. I'm pretty sure you know about it. So the problem with the very different scenario in India is that so many of these fan cultures are just coming up. You know, most of the fans, I would say 80-90% of the fans are first generation. Right, so I think the predicament is it's something like FC United, FC United of Manchester, old fan clubs just starting something new, and there is a process of conversion to some extent. But I want to have your point of view on this particular new phenomenon that we have, this private tournament called Indian Super League. Right, you mentioned how a new club comes up in England or anywhere in Europe, or most countries with some sanity. You start at the bottom, you win the lower divisions, you go up. Here we have something, you just put some money, you start a team, you're playing in the big thing. In Indian Super League, the franchisee just starts, and just because you're supposed to be in that city, you're supposed to get your fans. You get, it's a top-down approach, completely different from what's there in traditional football. So, is it something like how is it looked upon in Europe or something?
I think it's nuts. I think it's absolutely crazy. It's like the American system. The NBA, you can't get relegated from the NBA. It is the only tournament for basketball. this idea, and for me, the big problem is this idea of promotion and relegation. So there's no punishment if you don't do very well. And where do you go once you've won? You know, you win and then that's it. And then you play all the same teams again the next year. You know, there's nothing new, nothing changes. There's no dynamism to it. I don't think there's anything wrong with just creating a club. But I do think, so for example, in the UK, there's Wimbledon FC, and they moved to a place called Milton Keynes, which is outside of London. And the fans just thought, oh, well, thanks. We've been here for 100 years, and you've just moved, and it's like 150 miles away or something. So they started their own team, AFC Wimbledon, and they had to start at the bottom. But then they worked their way up, and then they got promoted, and now they're in the leagues. They're not at the same place as the former team, but they have more respect, and people outside of their fan base support them. So when we have the FA Cup, which is the big knockout tournament where any team can enter, any amateur team, whatever. And AFC Wimbledon, I think they're playing Liverpool, I think, maybe last year or the year before. And they came really close to winning. And like the whole of the country, it's like, come on, you can beat Liverpool. And it's because everybody just thought, look, you've come from nothing and you've built this thing all the way to the point where you're playing Liverpool at Anfield. Yeah. You know, it's an incredible story. Very different to Sourav Ganguly putting some money in a team and then naming it after a Spanish.
It wasn't him, but
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
He's like how the celebrity owners work is that most of them are basically given sweat equities. So they make appearances and they come to the games, and you know, with them
I
certain
think
number of people.
The only guy who's put in money is Johnny Abraham for the Northeast team.
Okay.
That actor. So he's got his own money. Others are like basically small percentage of shares in the team.
It's basically to attract crowd.
Yeah.
If Dada in Kolkata says that you guys need to come and watch our game, if Sachin goes to Kerala and says you guys need to come and watch our game, people will come. So these are like Sachin, Saurav, Virat Kohli. These are like stakeholders of Indian sports. Okay.
So why haven't they attach themselves to an I-League team before the ISL?
Because you don't get ownership in those teams. Like, you have to actually start a club if you want to have a I-League team. So that's the
and
way
you have
it
to
works.
play in. So there is a corporate entry kind of thing in I-League also, where Bengaluru FC is the best example. But otherwise you have to play through the lower divisions and then come up the ranks to play in the top tier.
That makes so much more sense to me.
Yeah. See, that's the actual league, right? Yeah. ISL is just something that exists in its own bubble. Nothing comes in, nothing comes out. So I-League is the one that, you know, if you win it, you play ACL qualifiers or AFC Cup, you get relegated to second division. Makes it more interesting. But and one of the things that Kit was mentioning, the story of how you started. You know, this unique history that it gives you. You know, like Shillong Lajong started in a pub by amateur players who were not getting any other teams, and now they're playing in the top division. You know, East Bengal started in a house. You know, they wanted some dispute with this other club, and they rebelled and started their own club. So these kind of things, they stay with you. You know, they become part of your identity. And here what we have, ISL. Some rich people got together in a room and said, you get Kerala, not even in a pub. It's like an AC 5-star hotel. You get Kerala, you get Delhi, you get Kolkata. Done. But everything just started at the same time, and everything finishes at the same time. All the teams are identical. It's like a league full of Chelsea, you know. Chelsea and Manchester City. That's it.
What a horrible thought.
But how was ISL perceived in UK?
It got news. When it started, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
Yeah, partly because of the players from the Premier League, the tail end of their career, like Lundberg and Anelka. I think it's seen as kind of maybe similar to the MSL in America, in the fact that it's a place where football players go to finish their career kind of thing for some big bucks. But yeah, I mean, that's what the headlines were. But beyond the fact that it had set up and these players were playing, there wasn't any real discussion about what it meant for Indian football. And it's not a threat. Unlike the current Chinese leagues who are buying Oscar for like 60 million or something ridiculous, and putting in bids for 100 million for Costa. This is a threat to the Premier League as a kind of financial football institution, whereas the ISL doesn't seem like a threat right now. But
there's a lot of money. I mean, it can start any time.
Yeah,
in Indian sports. Yeah,
and this is what I was about to go on to say. I think it's been underestimated, but also because of this merger thing that might happen. I think everything's a bit up in the air, and that's partly what I was interested in writing about, was this idea that you merge the leagues and then everyone drops out into the second division. and like, how do you get relegated for?
No, there's a problem. There's a problem. They are from what they're saying is that when the franchises were created for ISL, they had this 10-year contract, right? So now the IMG Reliance, which is the partner of AIFF, Indian FA, they are trying hard to make sure that the merged league does not have any relegation. So right now what they're trying to do is only the 3 biggest, most popular clubs who can sustain financially, East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, Bengaluru FC, those are the 3 clubs who will be taken in the new league. There will be these other 8 ISL teams, and some new team will come up, something like that, or other 11 or 12 clubs. That will be the new top division. So they will not have relegation for a few years until those the original contracts are out, and then you become, open the leagues up again. So what this is essentially doing is that 10 clubs in I-League, 3 are getting to stay in the top division. The others are going down to League 1. So this is the mind-boggling aspect of it. How can you take 7 top division clubs who deserve to be there and just forcefully relegate
sacrifice them?
Especially when you take a case of Mumbai FC, who has actually come into the top division through after winning the second division. So it's a forced
and fighting relegation and staying in the top league.
In '92, the Premier League started. So it used to be first division, second division, third division, fourth, Vauxhall Conference, some of that other stuff. And then Sky Sports got involved and were like, let's make a new top tier league with more TV rights, and the big clubs were behind it, like Man United and Arsenal and Liverpool. But they still managed to, it didn't divorce itself from the league. It just became the next new top bit, which actually allowed more into the bottom of the actual league structure, and I feel like that should be the way it's done here. The people who are already in the I-League,
they don't want them
why
there.
Can't they have 20 teams in the league?
They don't want them there because the financial model, it's like MLS. The main people who are promoting this depend on the franchisee fees. So if you're able to pay it, you get to play. Otherwise, you're out.
So how do the fans, the fans who are supporting Atletico de Calcutta or Mumbai City or whatever, are they different to the fans who support East Bengal?
It's a mixture of East Bengal and Mohun Bagan fans who are just supporting because East Bengal and Mohun Bagan are not there, and they took some of their players, right? Okay. So it's like a temporary thing. They will have lots of trouble, and they are the biggest opponents to this merger because they know their own fan base will leave them if this happens.
It's a different story in Kolkata and Mumbai. Okay, in Mumbai, what we basically need is a football culture. So the guys you see over there in Mumbai FC stands, basically most of them also go for Mumbai City matches, because we want more and more people to come to football stadiums and watch the game. Kolkata, it is different. They already have a football culture over there. They have proper segmentation of who is a Bagan fan, who is an East Bengal fan, and that's where the difference is. So most of these guys that you're seeing at Yellow Brigade are also a part of supporters club of Mumbai City. Okay. It's basically to get in more people.
Yeah, see, that would freak me out in London.
It freaks me out.
Right, you're an Arsenal fan. Now go and watch Chelsea and support. I'm like,
what?
That's why this needs to happen so fast. And
the merger needs to happen because you need to take a side. See, right now it is 2 different leagues. Okay, so and definitely the cricket is such a huge game in Mumbai that football doesn't find any place. Okay, there is a EPL fan base and then there is an Indian football small fan base. So this fan base need to increase, and that will increase by going to more matches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the club needs to put more efforts into like I was talking to the guys in Bengaluru, John Johnson, one of their players, and he was talking about how the club has tried to engage with fans, having their own pub, getting out there, getting people to the games. I didn't really see that so much at Mumbai, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a smaller budget team. They're mostly trying to just stay in the top division.
Yeah.
Relegation fighters, right? Yeah.
Of course, always.
Every year.
Always.
Well, I think
survive.
to sum it up all, one thing that I would take away personally, I think, from Kit is he mentioned the respect factor when you mentioned about Wimbledon moving away, and then the AFC, they formed the AFC Wimbledon, and then you said when they came up the ranks, more than anything, whether it's the fandom, whether it's aggression or whatever, there was respect for that team. So that's what every ISL team lacks right now, because the way it is.
Because football respects fighters.
Yeah.
And almost every legit club has a fighting story behind how they came up, right? And ISL teams what? Through money?
Yeah.
That's it?
Exactly. That's exactly why even their fans are looked down upon.
Yeah.
Just because you have probably a name or a star. Like, I think Mumbai City, just to touch upon Nikhil's point when he mentioned now, if you go to see the Mumbai City matches, you see the same amount of people that support Mumbai FC. But I think that's very recent.
Yeah.
Initially, that's when now that they are taking up the initiative saying, hey, you know what? There's football in your city. Come out and support. But I think initially it was the star value. You had someone like Anelka in your team, and you had some, in the start edition you had other players, and then this time there was...
It is easy to attract those EPL fans.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have a Jumbag in your team, there are a lot of Arsenal fans in the stadium. So.
But as we said, I think the culture needs to be grown, and that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
You cannot start anything new or tell someone to do this, do that. It needs to be inside you, I guess. And
one of the points that Kid made, CSL is a threat, but ISL is not. You know why? Because this kind of closed system sort of, stops the growth at one point. It can only grow so much if you're not having that kind of dynamism, right? So ISL, the player wages will not go that much up because they just take players out of I-League. That's it. Yeah. So if merger happens, I-League teams will bid more, ISL teams will bid more, the teams' budgets will go up, there will be more interest, more teams, longer league, and that's where the opportunity for growth comes out. That's where you'll have new clubs starting out in second division, hoping one day we'll get up there. So that's the only way it can happen. Otherwise, this will just go to some distance and stay there.
Great. Well, that's about it. I mean, that was an intense discussion. I think we can go on and on and on about it because, hey, we've observed.
That's our life, right?
Yeah. Kit has observed a lot because he's been traveling, and he can draw comparisons. I'm pretty sure we will have you again on our show for another discussion. And we, of course, are always here to give you the daily dose of Indian football. Now, that's all for today. Kit, why don't you tell your Twitter handle, because let the listeners know.
It's at Kit Caless, KITCALESS, and I try not to reply to eggs.
Well, that was for Kit, and Chiranjit is as Chiranjit Oja, 42 Nikhil for Nikhil, and Boza_Kevin for Kevin, and I'm on Twitter as SujuMatthew94. Now, if you're listening to our show on YouTube, hit the like button, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit on the bell icon so you get updates of our new episodes, and you can also listen to our podcast on Audio Boom, SoundCloud, iTunes, etc. Have a great day. Do come back to us tomorrow because we're a daily show. As we said, Kit, it was a pleasure having you on the show, a new voice, and we hope to have you again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's all, guys. Cheers. Have a nice day.
Hey man, just help me out, man. I need some podcast, man. I haven't had a fix in a week. Just need some.
Don't you worry about it. I got podcast galore for you, man. Just go to ivmpodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna check it out.